Hey guys, I'm here joined with Dr. Mike Arnold, who is a professor of landscape and horticulture at Texas A&M University, and we are talking bluebonnets. Dr. Arnold, can you tell me when is the peak of bluebonnets? I know a lot of folks like to take those pictures. When can we usually see that here in the Houston area?
Well, Chris, we obviously varies a little bit with weather each year, but we should be in about peak by now. Uh, the year for bluebonnets probably wasn't quite as strong as some of the past years. That's due to a dry fall. If you understand bluebonnet physiology, they germinate in the fall, exist as a small rosette in the winter, and then it'll bloom and be in flower in the spring. So we need rain in the fall to germinate them and then rain again in the spring. And unfortunately, we've been a little bit on the dry side, both in the fall and this spring until recently. And so the crop of bluebonnets might not be quite as good as usual, but you can still find some good patches for pictures.
That's awesome. And so I know a lot of times there's problems with root rot when we usually get maybe a lot more rain. Can you talk about like the problems that we usually see when it comes to, weather conditions and what we see during the winter time and what problems it could cause for bluebonnets?
All sorts of things. The good thing is bluebonnet's pretty resilient. But yes, we can get into issues with root rots with excessive rain, particularly in soils that do not have adequate drainage. If you've ever noticed, bluebonnets kind of thrive when they're on like a hillside or a little hillock. And so that's why they do so well on like cut banks along roadsides. And many of those have also been seeded in. So that's some of the best places to look for patches for good pictures right now.
Awesome. And so I just now learned this. I didn't realize that there were so many different species of bluebonnets. Can you talk about how many different species of bluebonnets exist here in Texas?
Well, it's interesting. They initially named the common bluebonnet, Texas bluebonnet, as the state flower, but then they realized that there were five more species. So there are six total species, and these were then all designated as being the state wildflower. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And so you said the good spots, I know it has to deal with like the incline and kind of a certain type of elevation or something. Can you talk about like what area usually do bluebonnets like growing the best?
Well, we have usually have some nice patches on up towards Brenham area and that portion a little bit northwest of Houston. We get some good patches there. And also, I happen to notice driving around Houston some in the last few weeks that in particular, some of the areas where we've had relatively new construction, so like 105, the kind of the loop there, the tollway there, there were some beautiful patches along it and that was where we had freshly cut areas that either been seeded over or it exposed some of the seed that was available there.
Awesome. And I know a lot of times, taking a road trip across Texas, folks go to Central Texas and the Hill Country to find the best bluebonnets out there. However, there's been quite severe drought out in Central Texas. Has that had an effect on the bluebonnet populations near Austin or San Antonio for the folks making road trips for the next couple months?
Well, certainly you can find patches where they got enough water in the fall. And of course, it's been kind of dry and there's not much grass competing with it. That's the other issue is whether the grows so fast it overtops the bluebonnets or not. So that's kind of one of the challenges we run into in Houston area. But I think you can find some patches in the Hill Country area, but I think you actually will see some better patches in and around the Houston area where we had better rainfall last year.
Right. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So the folks that are in Austin, San Antonio probably have to come over here to get those bluebonnet pictures. Kind of an opposite situation. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
well, we'll get a little bit extra.
Right. Awesome. And so I know growing up, I just have to ask these questions. I was under the assumption that we can go to jail for picking bluebonnets. Is that true?
Well, first of all, I will say that we really encourage people to leave the bluebonnets there because that seed bank is what's important for next year's crop. However, to my knowledge, there is absolutely no laws prohibiting the picking of bluebonnets outside of perhaps state parks where you're not supposed to pick any of the wildflowers.
Awesome. That's a good thing to know. So it's basically a myth that we were all growing up. That's what we heard of. That there's actually no law in place. That's interesting to know.
But it kind
Um,
of protects the bluebonnets. Yeah,
True, true. Well, awesome. This is great information for folks wanting to get out there and try to find bluebonnets here across Southeast Texas. And I know that we're in the spring season and we're going to continue seeing comfortable conditions and sunny skies for the next few days. So perfect advice and perfect information for folks that are searching for those bluebonnets here across the Houston area.
great. Yeah, great idea to get out this weekend before well, it's past the peak. So
Okay, so the peak is about to end.
yeah, we're getting on to the season pretty good this spring. So
Awesome. Okay.